You're talking to members, you're talking to member staff, you're on the phone, you're getting text messages. And what I just got this general sense is that I kind of expected halfway through that this whole thing was going to collapse. There's a lot of pressure on there just to go along and get along. But what just amazed me was when you would talk to a lot of these folks, I think about someone like a Ralph Norman, who I remember talking to, his conviction was just so strong. It's like he didn't care what this meant for his political future. It's like, we got to do this. And if we don't do this, the rest of it's not going to matter anyway. If you can't win on this type of process reform, what are we trying to do here?
Suddenly, people were looking from the outside at the House floor and going, these guys are actually trying to stand for something. And the tide turned.
So some people tried to personalize this fight, that this fight was about Kevin McCarthy and his role. And this was nothing to do with Kevin McCarthy. This had everything to do with process. What they wanted is the process that most Americans assumed already happens.
I say there were the never Kevins, the people who would never vote for Kevin, and there were the ever Kevins. I was a staunch, unflinching, barely Kevin, all 15 rounds. I learned a lesson from our battles with John Boehner and then Paul Ryan. I was a part of all three efforts to get rid of John Boehner. I helped organize the second two efforts, one with Jim Bridenstine and the third with Mark Meadows, which worked. But we did the lazy thing. We changed the person. We didn't change the institution. And so when John Boehner left and we got Paul Ryan, who I also didn't vote for, nothing changed. In fact, things got worse. What I wanted to see come out of that conflict was a better institution, not a different speaker.
There was a group that had started negotiating, not with McCarthy, but with McCarthy's team about rules.
We had multiple meetings going on. Sometimes we were all in one room, sometimes we were divided up. We brought moderate Republicans in to help them understand what we were doing and even receive their input.
Where they said, well, what is it you're actually looking for? And so we kind of started laying it out, and they said, well, yeah, well, this is not a problem. Why is this a problem? And we're for this. And we started having this conversation. As long as we're staying on this track and we can fill in the details and we can get his agreement on these things, we'll vote for him.
We all just stuck together. We took the arrows. We sat down. We negotiated in good faith.
The 20, they were having meetings. The leadership was having meetings. I was meeting with the 20. Talking about what happened during the Boehner efforts to get rid of Boehner. I think my biggest contribution to the January effort was to help the group come to the conclusion that a deal would be better than a different speaker. Because if you just get a different speaker, you might not get a deal.
And then I got kind of thrust into the middle of negotiating to see where we could get to reach conclusion on what it would look like. And over those, tumultuous days, we were late hours, we came to agreement. And, it was funny. There's a lot of people across the spectrum, the ideological spectrum of the conference, who sat down and said, well, that makes sense. I think I kind of want that too.
He started agreeing to a lot of what we wanted in writing. He agreed to balance the budget, not 7 years, 10 years. He agreed to vacate the chair, to one person to be able to vacate the chair. He agreed to have bills that we saw 72 hours in advance. He agreed to put conservatives in positions that we can make a difference.
They were actually really smart about the things they asked for and what they got. They got equal representation on the committees, particularly committees where conservatives had been denied slots, like Energy and Commerce, Finance, Appropriations, the Spending Committee. Leadership doesn't want conservatives on the spending committee. How are you going to spend all this money?
If you're negotiating in a deal and you get what you asked for, well then take the deal.
So once we had a rules package that worked, we removed the key vote so that it would not be a negative for members who voted for Leader McCarthy, because that was our way of saying we support what they're doing in terms of rules and running the chamber.